A sketch, a cry for help. Justin Bieber's unexpected journey begins. What if a single drawing could change the course of someone's life? Not just the artist's, but the person who received it. That's exactly what happened one sunny afternoon in Los Angeles, when Justin Bieber stepped out of a café expecting nothing more than caffeine and casual conversation. The air was light with laughter, the streets busy with fans and tourists, but something across the road made him pause. It wasn't a camera flash or a fan calling his name. It was a boy, thin, quiet, sitting cross-legged on the sidewalk. His clothes were worn, his hands smudged with charcoal, and in those hands was a sketch pad, trembling slightly as he drew. Justin, known for his sharp eye and quiet empathy, didn't just glance and move on. Something about the boy rooted him to the spot. The boy looked up. Their eyes met. Without a word, he crossed the street, handed Justin a folded piece of paper, and whispered, "For you." Then he was gone, disappearing, into the blur of the city. It was a portrait, Justin's. But it wasn't the likeness that struck him. It was the depth. The eyes on the paper seemed to know him, to see him. He smiled, folded the drawing, and tucked it into his jacket pocket. A kind gesture, he thought. A fleeting encounter. He had no idea that hidden within that napkin sketch was a message. Faint, desperate, almost invisible. A silent scream scrawled in pencil. "Help me, it's not safe. Please." Days later, that drawing would lead Justin into the darkest alleys of Los Angeles, into places where the city hides what it doesn't want the world to see, into a mystery deeper and more dangerous than any song lyric or tour schedule could prepare him for. Because the boy wasn't just an artist, he was a ghost slipping through cracks in the system, a voice that had nearly been lost. And Justin? He was about to become the only person willing to listen. Before we dive in, what would you have done if you were Justin that day? Let us know in the comments, because sometimes the smallest actions can pull the biggest threads, and in this case, one sketch was enough to unravel everything. The unexpected gift, a portrait that speaks volumes. The golden sun filtered through palm trees, casting long shadows across the sidewalks of downtown Los Angeles. The city pulsed with life. Street performers danced, tourists snapped selfies, and the usual buzz of horns and chatter filled the air. Amid this familiar chaos, Justin Bieber stood outside Café Lumière, sipping a latte and laughing softly with two old friends. His casual look, worn jeans, white tee, and a trucker cap pulled low, allowed him to blend in effortlessly. Fame for once wasn't center stage, but even in the calm of conversation, Justin's eyes wandered. They always did. He was observant, always scanning, always feeling. And that's when he saw him. Across the street, a boy, alone, maybe 12 or 13. His clothes clung to his small frame, threadbare and faded. No shoes. A battered sketch pad balanced on his knees. His head, bowed in complete concentration, the boy's fingers danced across the page with practiced ease, bringing something to life. Not a street gimmick, not a sales pitch, just creation. Pure, unfiltered. Justin tilted his head, watching. The boy seemed untouched by the city around him, deaf to the honking, blind to the passers-by. It wasn't the first time Justin had seen someone drawing on the street, but something in the boy's posture, the urgency in his strokes, stopped him. Minutes passed. The boy didn't look up. Then suddenly he did. Eyes locked. Before Justin could process it, the boy stood, gripped his sketchpad tightly, and wove through traffic with surprising agility. Within seconds, he was standing in front of him. "For you," the boy said, holding out a sheet torn from his pad. His voice was barely above a whisper. Justin blinked. "For me?" The boy nodded. No smile, just solemn, expectant eyes. Justin unfolded the drawing slowly. It was a portrait. His portrait. Every line, every shadow. It was more than realistic. It was truthful. The eyes on paper mirrored not just how he looked, but how he felt. Vulnerability, exhaustion, hope. Things hidden behind the polished smile the world always expected. "Wow," he breathed. "You're really talented." He crouched to the boy's level, instinctively reaching out and resting a hand on the kid's shoulder. It was a small moment, but heavy with sincerity. A thank you without words. The boy gave the faintest nod, turned and melted back into the crowd. Justin watched him disappear, the drawing still trembling in his hands. He should have asked his name, offered food, a ride, something. But part of him thought maybe the kid just wanted to share a gift with no strings attached. He looked down at the sketch again, then folded it gently and slipped it into the inner pocket of his jacket. "What talent," one of his friends murmured. Justin nodded, eyes lingering on the empty street. "Yeah. Rare." They returned to their chat. Laughter resumed. But somewhere, deep in Justin's chest, a quiet disquiet had taken root. Something about the boy's eyes, the way he'd handed over the drawing. It didn't feel finished. Not by a long shot, and he was right. The story was only just beginning. Unveiling the secret. A cry for help. Revealed. Several days had passed since the strange encounter outside the café. Justin's days had been filled with rehearsals, meetings, and the usual whirlwind of life in the spotlight. Yet, something kept pulling at him, a quiet tug in the back of his mind. He found himself reaching into his jacket pocket again and again, fingertips brushing against the folded paper tucked inside. The boy's drawing. It was a quiet evening when everything changed. Justin had just returned to his hilltop home, modern, minimalist, serene, the kind of place built to keep the chaos outside. As he stepped through the door, tossing his keys onto a tray and slipping off his jacket, something slid to the floor. The sketch. He bent to pick it up, smiling faintly. The portrait still struck him. It had a soul. But tonight, something felt different. He turned the paper over. At first glance, it was blank. But then, under the soft glow of a nearby lamp, he saw it. Something faint. A smudge. No. Lines. Letters. He tilted the paper toward the light. The message revealed itself slowly, like a bruise surfacing beneath the skin. "Help me. It's not safe. Please." His heart lurched. Justin stood motionless, staring at the faint, frantic handwriting. The words were barely there, almost hidden. But their meaning hit like a punch to the chest. It wasn't just a sketch. It was a message, a cry for help. And he'd missed it. He replayed the moment outside the cafe in his mind. The boy's eyes, the urgency in his voice, the way he vanished. This wasn't a coincidence. Justin's thoughts raced. Who was the boy? Where had he gone? And what danger was he running from? Memories from his own youth, before fame, before fortune, surged forward. The loneliness, the helplessness, the feeling of being unseen, unheard. He knew that fear. He'd lived it once, and he couldn't ignore it now. Within minutes, Justin was grabbing his jacket again, stuffing the drawing carefully into his inner pocket. He pulled on his boots, grabbed his helmet, and rushed out the door. The engine of his motorcycle roared to life, shattering the stillness of the night as he sped off into the dark. Back toward the cafe. Back toward the only place the boy had ever appeared. The streets were alive with late-night traffic and glowing neon. But Justin's focus was razor-sharp. He retraced every step in his memory. The sidewalk, the intersection, the spot where the boy had sat, legs crossed, sketching with furious concentration. When he arrived, the cafe was quieter than he remembered, the music softer, the air cooler, but the sense of urgency was louder than ever. Justin paced the block, scanning every alley, every stoop, every flicker of movement. He asked waiters, baristas, street musicians. Most hadn't noticed anything unusual. A few remembered, some, kid with a pencil. None had seen him since. Frustration gnawed at him, but he didn't give up. Further down the block, past a bookstore wrapped in ivy and shadows, Justin found an old man manning a newsstand that looked like it hadn't moved in 20 years. Newspapers, candy, knickknacks, dusty and forgotten. But the man's eyes were sharp. Justin approached. "Excuse me. A few days ago, a boy was sitting around here. Small, thin, had a sketch pad. Did you see him?" The vendor squinted. "Lots of kids pass through here. Most don't stay." This one drew portraits, really talented. The man scratched his chin, then nodded slowly. "Little artist. Yeah. Used to curl up behind that dumpster over there." Justin's stomach dropped. He followed the man's gesture to a corner thick with shadows and trash. The spot was empty now, just torn newspapers and a broken crayon or two. He crouched, scanning the debris. And then he saw it. A scrap of paper, dirty and crumpled, stuck beneath a soggy flyer. He peeled it free. It was another sketch. This one, rushed, half-finished. It wasn't just a face. It was a scene, a fence, a building, a strange symbol scrawled in the background, and beneath it all, faint letters, smeared by moisture. A name, or part of one. It wasn't just a sketch, it was a map. Justin stood there in the alley, paper clutched in his hand, heart pounding in his chest. The boy hadn't just asked for help. He had left a trail, and now Justin had a choice. He could walk, away, pretend he never saw the message, or he could follow it into the unknown. He didn't hesitate. The chase had begun. Into the unknown, tracing the boy's footsteps. Justin didn't sleep that night. He didn't even go home. The torn sketch, the second message, was now folded tightly in his pocket, resting against his chest like a heartbeat. Every line, every smudge, every cryptic symbol etched itself deeper into his mind as he rode through the city on his motorcycle. The wind loud, but his thoughts louder. This wasn't just about finding the boy anymore. It was about finding the truth. He started at the shelters, small, overcrowded places tucked under overpasses and hidden in alleys. He walked through soup kitchens and sleeping camps, flashing the portrait of the boy, the first one, the one drawn, with so much soul, and asking softly, carefully, "Have you seen him?" Most people shook their heads. Some barely looked up. A few murmured apologies, eyes too tired to care. The boy was invisible, forgotten by a city that moves too fast and forgets too easily. Hours passed. The sun never rose. The city just dimmed and flickered like a dying light bulb. Then, under a bridge littered with makeshift tents and broken dreams, Justin found her. An older woman, wrapped in 4 coats and a 1,000-yard stare. She looked at the portrait, blinked twice and nodded slowly. "Yeah, think I seen him," she muttered. "Little guy, quiet, kept to himself, good with pencils, stayed by the old bus depot." Justin's pulse surged. "Is he still there?" She shook her head. "Gone a few days now. Someone said he got taken." The word hit like ice water down his spine. He crouched beside her, kept his voice calm. "Taken? By who?" The woman looked away. "People around here don't ask, but sometimes kids disappear, not by accident." Justin pressed a folded bill into her palm, whispering thanks. Then he turned and ran, back to his bike, back into the city's belly. This was no longer a search. This was a rescue. He sped through empty streets until the bus depot came into view. It was a ghost. Graffiti on broken walls, weeds sprouting from shattered concrete. He parked at the edge, flashlight in hand, heart hammering. Inside, he found the silence first. And then, the evidence. Crushed snack wrappers, A tattered blanket, a crumpled sketch, half finished, torn at the edges. His fingers trembled as he picked it up. The same fence, the same strange symbol. But this time, a word, clearer than before. St. D. He didn't need the rest. His gut had already filled in the blank. St. Dominic's, a place he'd only heard about in whispers. An old children's home shut down years ago. Scandals, abuse, cover-ups. The kind of place society locks up and pretends never existed. He left the depot at a sprint, no longer afraid, just burning with urgency. The next morning, as the city yawned, awake, Justin knocked on the studio door of a friend, an old painter from his early career days, someone who'd helped him see detail, light, shadow. They spread the sketch on a wide oak table, light pouring in from a loft window. You see, this? Justin pointed. Barbed wire on top of the fence. That's not decorative. The artist adjusted his glasses, studying the lines. Industrial. Probably a facility, not a house. And this building? He stared for a long moment. Institutional. Looks like a detention center. Maybe an old orphanage. Not public. Then his eyes narrowed, finger hovering over the smudged letters. St. Dominic's, he guessed. That place was a nightmare. Shut down after, well, let's just say it wasn't safe for kids. Justin's jaw clenched. Where is it? The artist scribbled an address. But be careful. Places like that, they don't stay empty. Not really. Justin took the paper, heart pounding, fury rising beneath his ribs. The drawing wasn't just a map. It was a message, a scream, a thread tied to a place forgotten by the law, but not by the people still trapped inside. He thanked his friend, slid on his helmet, and roared out of the city centre toward the outskirts, where the air thickened and the sun seemed to dim behind. Smog, where St. Dominic's still waited. Its gates rusted shut, its halls silent, its walls holding secrets no child should ever have to draw. Breaking chains. The courageous rescue saint. Dominic's home for children stood like a wound carved into the outskirts of Los Angeles, a place forgotten not by time, but by choice. Justin approached slowly, his motorcycle tucked behind a thicket of dry brush. The building loomed under a grey sky, its facade a mess of peeling paint, shattered windows, and vines that crawled like fingers toward the roof. A rusted fence circled the property, crowned with barbed wire. At the entrance, sprayed hastily across a crumbling wall, was a symbol Justin had already seen twice before. The broken cross. The same one from the boy's sketch. The same one described by the man at the bus depot. His stomach tightened. He pulled the drawing from his pocket, held it up, and matched it against the structure before him. The angle, the fence, the shadows. It was all here. This was it. He scanned the perimeter, crouching low, until he found a gap in the fence, just wide enough to slip through. As he stepped inside, every instinct screamed, danger. But he pressed on. The inside was worse. The air was thick with rot. Mold covered the walls like wounds. Long-forgotten toys lay scattered on the floor. A broken tricycle. A stuffed bear missing an eye. Graffiti danced along the hallway, hiding old pain behind new paint. And then, voices. Men's voices. Sharp, angry. Justin froze against the wall, barely breathing. He crept closer, his boots silent on the dust-covered floor. We move them tonight. He's causing problems. Drawings. Talking. I told you not to screw this up. Justin's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a hideout, it was an operation. He edged around a corner, catching a glimpse of two men. Big. One wore a jacket with the broken cross. The other slammed a door. Shut at the end of a hallway. The boy was here. He had to be. Justin backed away slowly, heart racing. He needed a plan. Charging in would get them both killed. He remembered the car he had borrowed, a plain black sedan parked 2 blocks away, safer than his bike. He'd have to carry the boy out. He scanned the halls for an alternate path, One, the guards weren't watching. Then, a sound. A cough. Small, weak. It came from a side door, slightly ajar. Justin crept toward it, pushed it open gently. Inside, the room was dark and bare. Broken furniture, a cracked window, and in the corner, curled up on the floor, was the boy. His body trembled, his fingers wrapped tightly around a battered sketch pad. Dirt streaked his cheeks. His lips moved, but no words came. Justin knelt beside him. "Hey, buddy, it's okay. I'm here to help." The boy flinched, eyes wide, terrified. Justin stayed still, soft, safe. "My name's Justin," he whispered. "I saw your drawing. I saw the message." The boy blinked. His hand loosened, just slightly. "I know what it's like, to feel alone, to feel like no one sees you," Justin continued. "But I see you. I'm not leaving without you." The silence held for a long beat. Then, slowly, the boy reached out, trembling fingers meeting Justin's. That was enough. Justin scooped him up, careful not to jostle the bruises that lined his arms. The boy was far too light, malnourished, fading. They moved quickly through the corridor, Justin's eyes scanning every shadow, every flicker of movement. Then, behind them, a voice. "Hey!" They ran. Justin burst through the back exit, sprinting toward the fence. He slipped through the gap, heart hammering, the boy clinging to his chest. In the distance, two men shouted. Footsteps thundered. He reached the car, yanked the door open, and slid inside. The engine roared to life. In the rearview mirror, figures charging from the building. No time. He slammed the car into gear and peeled. Away, tires screeching. The city swallowed them again, lights blurring past like ghosts. The boy buried his face in Justin's side. "You're safe now," Justin whispered, one hand on the wheel, the other clutching the boy tight. "I promise." But he knew the truth. They were only just beginning. New beginnings, from shadows to light. The city blurred past as Justin drove, hands tight on the wheel, eyes flicking constantly between the road and the rearview mirror. The boy lay curled in the passenger seat, still clutching his sketch pad like a shield. Every bump, every turn made him flinch. His trust was real, but fragile, like porcelain held together with hope. Justin knew they had to disappear. Fast. Hospitals were out of the question. Too many forms, too many questions. Police? Riskier. Whatever group had taken the boy wasn't just some back alley gang. This was bigger, organized, and if they had people on the inside, one wrong call could destroy everything. He made a sharp turn, headed toward an old pawn shop. On the edge of the city, its front windows boarded, its signage faded. But behind that quiet facade was something far more valuable than gold or guitars. A doctor. Discreet, no questions asked. Justin pounded on the side door. For a moment, nothing. Then a small sliding hatch opened. "Justin?" came the quiet voice. "Inside. I need help. Now." The door unlocked. Inside, the clinic was cramped but clean. The doctor, a wiry man with sharp eyes, ushered them into a back room. He examined the boy gently, speaking little, hooked him up to fluids, took his vitals, cleaned his wounds. Malnourished, dehydrated, but no broken bones, the doctor murmured. "You got him out just in time." Justin exhaled, tension flooding out of his chest. He stayed by the boy's side as he slept, curled on a narrow cot, the IV line glowing faintly in the dim light. Hours passed. When the boy stirred, Justin leaned in. "You're safe," he whispered. The boy's eyes were glassy, his voice barely audible. "They were going to sell us," he said. "Me and others. We weren't the only ones." Justin's fists clenched. He'd suspected, but hearing it from the boy, lit a fire inside him that burned hotter than anything he'd ever known. "What's your name?" he asked softly. The boy hesitated, then shook his head. "They told me not to tell, said it was safer." Justin nodded. "Okay, we'll call you whatever you want." Silence. Then, a whisper. "Leo?" Justin smiled. "Hi, Leo." They made a plan. The doctor contacted a small but powerful NGO, one that specialized in child protection and extraction. Justin called a lawyer he trusted, not his publicist, not his team, just one man. Quiet, effective. Within hours, a group had mobilized. Lawyers, advocates, security consultants. No headlines, no press releases. Just action. Leo remained silent for the most part, but when he did speak, it was in fragments. He didn't talk about the pain or the darkness. He talked about color, about the stories he wanted to draw, about places that were warm and safe and filled with people who saw you. Justin listened, and when Leo fell asleep, Justin sat nearby, sketch in hand, letting the weight of the moment settle in. They had escaped, but they hadn't won. Not yet. Late, that night the doctor returned, his face grim. "Word's getting out. They're looking for him." Justin stood. "Then we move. Now." They slipped out through the back door, the boy wrapped in a hoodie 2 sizes too big. Justin's arm around his shoulders, his other hand gripping a phone, scanning for updates. They moved through alleys and side streets, silent shapes in the shadows. Finally, they reached the safe house. Modest, gated, surrounded by tall hedges and guarded by people who didn't flinch under pressure. Inside, it was warm, clean. Leo sat on the floor, drawing again within minutes. A new sketch, a sunrise. Justin watched from the doorway. Over the next few days, the legal team worked tirelessly. Leo was granted emergency protected status. A temporary foster family, vetted and trained, was ready to take him in. They didn't ask for details. They just opened their arms. Justin was there the day Leo moved in. He carried the boy's few belongings, sketch pads, pencils, a backpack of clothes. At the front door, Leo stopped. He looked up at Justin, eyes wide. "Brave." "Thank you," he whispered. Justin ruffled his hair. "Keep drawing, little buddy." Months passed. Leo began to bloom. In quiet moments, Justin would visit, sit on the porch while Leo sketched stories he couldn't yet say, out loud. Then, on Leo's birthday, something unexpected happened. As candles flickered and laughter filled the room, Leo handed Justin a wrapped gift. Inside, a painting. Justin and Leo, side by side, under a sky of brilliant blue. At the bottom corner, in tiny print, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." Justin's throat tightened. He hugged the boy, holding him close, because Leo wasn't the only one who had been saved. Sometimes the rescue goes both ways. A sketch that changed lives. The journey continues back home. The painting found a place of honor. Justin hung it in his living room, right above a sunlit stretch of wall where the morning light hit just right. Every time he walked by, he paused, not just to admire the colors or the talent, but to remember, to stay grounded, to remind himself that some moments, small, random, seemingly insignificant, carry the power to change everything. But one morning, as he dusted the frame, something new caught his eye. At the very bottom, nestled in the painted blades of grass beneath their feet, was a signature. Small, subtle, carefully hidden. A name. Leo's real name. Justin froze. He hadn't told anyone, not even Justin. And now, here it was, a quiet gift. A symbol of trust. It wasn't just a name. It was a truth, finally spoken. Justin stepped back, eyes wet, heart full. The boy who once clung to silence now spoke in color. The child who had once drawn with desperation now painted with hope. But deep down, Justin knew something else. This wasn't over. Leo had hinted at more. Other kids, other places, a network far larger than St. Dominic's. And the men who had taken him, those with the broken cross stitched into their jackets, they hadn't been caught. They hadn't stopped. If anything, they were watching. Threats had already begun to stir. A voicemail with nothing but breathing. A dark SUV parked too long near the safe house. A note slipped under a lawyer's office door. Justin had seen enough to know what that meant. Leo had found peace, but others hadn't. And if no one stood for them, they'd vanish like he almost had. So Justin began again. He reached out to journalists, quietly, anonymously, fed them what they needed: documents, witness statements, evidence the police had ignored. He helped the NGO expand, funding safe houses and security teams without attaching his name. And he kept visiting Leo, kept encouraging his art, kept promising that the world could be something more. Not perfect, but better. One afternoon, Leo handed him another drawing. This one was different, darker. It showed a row of children standing behind bars, their faces hollow, their hands stretched outward, reaching for something just beyond the page. Above them, a man stood with a paintbrush. Justin. Color poured from his brush, painting a bridge over the bars, leading into light. At the bottom, Leo had written just 4 words. Don't stop. They need you. Justin held the paper, breath caught in his chest. He wouldn't stop, because this story, the one that began with a sketch on a sidewalk, wasn't just about rescue. It was about redemption, about legacy, about seeing the unseen. And somewhere out there, in another forgotten alley, a pencil trembled in a small hand, sketching another silent scream onto a napkin. Justin would be ready. Would you? If this story moved you, if you believe that even one voice, one hand, one heart can make a difference, leave a comment, share this video. And don't forget to subscribe, because Leo's journey isn't over. The next chapter is already being drawn.